This is going to be my second film study look at what we can refer to at this point as the Declan Doyle offense. Of course, he was the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson was the scheme. They brought over from Detroit. It all kind of traces back to or is related to Sean Payton stuff. The idea here for this video for me is to focus on the under center play action game and display what I think should be pretty obvious. And that's how Declan Doyle can use horizontal conflict, but also run pass conflict at the same time from an under center formation standpoint to stretch the defense and just give Lamar Jackson more easy access throws. More than maybe we've seen definitely in 2025, but even the last 2 or 3 years under Todd Monken and prior to that with Greg Roman. I'm talking about, we've seen some easy completions out of the shotgun. Lamar and Monken are on the same page, and they see something in the defense. But the data that's come out, that's been shared on social media and in our Ravens Discord about Lamar's under center proficiency, I think it's legitimate. I think it's worthy of our focus, and I suspect that Doyle is going to have the Ravens under center a lot more in 2026. If you look at the numbers of outside zone or stretch plays and the highest usage in the NFL for last season, I think the top 3 teams for outside zone or stretch was the Falcons, Bears, and Ravens in that order. We now have the offensive coordinator from Chicago and the O-line or run game coordinator from Atlanta. It seems pretty clear to me we're going to get more of it. Now, the outside zone, it's not that it can't be run from the shotgun or the pistol specifically, but I anticipate it emanating more from under center in 2026 than maybe we've seen before, as well as the supplementary or complementary play off of it. The most obvious one is the play action boot. Let's get to the film here. I do have, I think, 7 or 8 plays from the Bears in 2025, as well as 3 to use with Lamar Jackson at quarterback, 2 from under center, and then 1 in the shotgun. So this first one is against the Packers. I believe this is in the playoffs. It's a 13 personnel group. As you can see, I'll try to put as much information as possible, usually over here in the bottom left corner. I'll try to keep it away from my logo in the bottom right. I've been guilty of kind of overlaying the logo over top of information before. So it's an I formation, but they like to use tight ends in the backfield. How this relates to Ricard, who is a free agent, I believe, who knows, but it's full flow, meaning the tight end and the tailback are both flowing to their right, the bottom side of the screen, one high safety structure, and then the Packers are going to rotate it or spin it. So Evan Williams is going to drop back, and I believe this is McKinney who's going to come downhill. A lot of lines on the screen there. First, let's deal with the quarterback path, Caleb Williams faking the handoff to the running back, and then booting in the opposite direction. This is the unblocked defender. I call it an over-under concept. It's just against the grain of the run action. So the 2 tight ends at the bottom side of the screen, at least, 84 and 85, they're running an under and an over. So the under-over refers to, or at least what I was taught, it's probably not the name that most people use to refer to it, underneath of the second level of the defense, and that is Colson Loveland, and then over the top of the second level of the defense, hence the over concept. In any case, it looks like run action to the defense. Somebody on the backside, whether it's an inside linebacker or a safety, has got to be responsible for one or both of these routes. Now, they're both wide open. We're talking about the under route and the over route. I think it's McKinney who should probably deal with this one here, cross his face. This is what I would refer to as, an easy access throw for Caleb Williams. This is, in my opinion, what Declan Doyle wants to use with, Derrick Henry as the run action, oftentimes into the boundary, and then Lamar booting opposite of it. I felt like in 2025, even though Lamar missed a number of games, there was a lot of data out there that showed our best plays occurred when Derrick Henry went in one direction post-snap and Lamar went in the other. I think it's pretty obvious this is a way to make the game, easier on the quarterback at times. I'm not talking about going under center 70, 75% of the snaps. So we have another one. I tried to use film from 3 or 4 different games this season for Chicago. So this is a 12 personnel group, and it's under center ace. So it's a 2-by-2 formation. So 1 tight end, 1 receiver to the left, 1 tight end, 1 receiver to the right. It's going to be a play action boot to the field. Again, it's to the quarterback's left, which is the same as you just saw on the previous play. 2 high safety structure from the 49ers, and they're in their base defense. And again, you've got the run action into the boundary, and the boot to the field. Ben Johnson, for years in Detroit and this past year in Chicago, is going to make it a point of forcing you to defend things into the boundary. Todd Monken had a lot of the same approach, but he just didn't do it from under center as much. This is a comprehensive play action pass game. So what I mean is Caleb Williams is actually reverse pivoting here. He's not opening to the running back. So with the running back going here, opening to him would be going like clockwise. He's actually reverse pivoting and then bringing his path back down here to the bottom side of our screen and are leaving the field side defensive end unblocked. The only difference with this concept versus the last one is the under route is speed. It's a Luther Burden. When I say speed, I mean it's a wide receiver who's running that under concept. Clear out route by DJ Moore at the bottom side. You do have a corresponding over route by the tight end up to the top. We're talking about this release here by 84, releasing to the outside and then working his way all the way across over the top of the second level of the defense, hence, what I call over-under, that defensive end, edge defender, not veering off the quarterback. I get it. There's going to be people who say, well, the DNs are going to veer off to Lamar all the time. We're not going to get a chance to run this play. Well, first of all, that's bullshit because we have film of it, and I'm actually going to show you a little bit here at the end of the video. But second of all that does is really just open up the run game. It means the backside defender, the backside edge guy will never be there. This is not an easy concept, don't get me wrong, to call and then execute, but it's timeless. You're always going to benefit, I think, offensively from when you have horizontal conflict, right-left conflict, built into or stacked on top of run-pass conflict. Again, we're focusing on, pretty much all under center play action concepts. This one against the Ravens, this one occurs, I believe, on the first drive. This is an 11 personnel group. I think the Bears know what our reaction's going to be. I think their preparation offensively between, Declan Doyle and Ben Johnson, they knew the alignment we were going to give them. So what I mean is we're in our nickel personnel group against 11, two high safety structure. Kyle Hamilton is rolled up to essentially be another edge defender, opposite of, I believe that's Kyle Van Noy to the top. The difference here is it's a slightly different route combination. I would call this over Yankee, but you've got the run action into the boundary once again. The high side or over concept is coming from the boundary. Hamilton, to me, is, a little bit of the breakdown here in that he doesn't, veer off to the quarterback quick enough at all. You do have Roquan Smith going with the running back path, thinking that it's, possibly a run play. Tight end Loveland is chipping Hamilton briefly, while the wide receiver, who's represented by this purple path, the wide receiver is releasing immediately to get upfield. That's all by design. It's because he wants to get this corner out of there, force this corner, Nate Wiggins, to defend that route. And that's exactly what happens. We just don't have numbers at all, but it takes advantage of the geometry of the field. It's somewhat related to, the split on the backside. You don't have a super tight split. He's at the bottom of the numbers. That's close enough to be able to get across the field if you've got good speed, and he does. We're talking about that route there. The clear out concept here goes over the top of Wiggins. You've got an underneath route, and then a third option for the quarterback, and really it's very elegant and simple. It takes advantage of so many modern defenders not being responsibility driven. In this case, eyes on the quarterback / running back. Kyle, we have enough guys to handle the run up there. We need you as the edge defender on the quarterback. I think he, is a half a step slow right around here. And oftentimes a half a step slow at one point in the play kind of multiplies or exacerbates the longer the play goes on. So just too much space for Caleb Williams to get this play off. Early in the game, you may remember it, they had two really promising drives against us. We're at a numbers deficit with the D end kind of kicked down and going with the run play. And I think the Bears knew it. It's a great concept that has run-pass conflict and horizontal conflict built in all at the same time. There is a lot of variation, or I should say different versions of these play-action concepts from under center. Ben Johnson, during his time in Detroit, they ran a ton of it, and I still recall to this day people were talking about how reliant Jared Goff was on those under center play action concepts. Caleb Williams, benefited from it in 2025. What I want to see is I want to see Lamar Jackson benefit from it in 2026. I didn't believe that narrative about Jared Goff. I think that Caleb Williams will continue to improve and develop under Ben Johnson. I want to see more of these easy access throws for Lamar. Allow him to exert, less energy over the course of the first 2 or 3 quarters of the game. Preserve as much of his stamina as possible for the fourth quarter and big plays. Third quarter against the Lions, I believe this is the regular season finale. It's the same concept as the one I just showed you, okay? These 2 routes are not really this close together. This is a little bit misleading, but, I've only got so much screen to deal with. But same concept we just showed you against the Ravens, right? Tight end, chip, and then release out into the flats. Over Yankee concept from the backside, a little bit tighter split perhaps, but the ball is in the middle of the field, so that accounts for a little bit of his split. Remember on the previous one I showed you, DJ Moore's feet were at the bottom of the numbers. And then just to clear out down here from the bottom side of the screen, I believe it's by Zacchaeus. But this isn't stretch. This is an outside zone. This is a different concept, okay? So you're getting right guard pull, like he's going to kick out the edge defender. He doesn't actually kick him out because he falls down. And then a counter step by the running back. I think the inside linebacker, Jack Campbell, is initially tracking the running back / fullback tandem. Since both of these guys step in this direction, you can see Campbell matching it. And the cool thing is, man, it really plays on the disciplined inside linebackers that will now pick up the guard as their secondary read. So watch Campbell's steps. He's the lone inside linebacker. He'll go with the tandem, almost actually kind of crosses over a little bit. And then since the guard 73 pulled, he's on the ground right now, he fell down, Jack Campbell stayed with the running back / tight end in the backfield. Actually, I think he's an eligible defensive lineman, number 92. But you get the idea. There's a lot of layers to these, in my opinion. And they've caught the Lions in a too high safety structure. And so what happens is Rock Ya-Sin sits down and gets his eyes inside looking for this route. I think it's Cole Kmet. This one ends up being wide open. It goes incomplete. I think it's a pretty good throw, to be honest with you. I think Caleb Williams puts it there. It's low, certainly catchable. In this case, it ends up being incomplete. But I wanted to use this one because it really lined up perfectly with the previous play. The only difference was the one against the Ravens that I showed you was a zone concept, and this one was a counter or gap scheme. This is a concept that I've enjoyed seeing teams run for years, even dating back to Greg Roman's time in Baltimore. The only difference was Greg Roman typically did this with motion, and in this case, the Bears are getting it accomplished with an I formation. They're not there yet. You're going to get motion into the backfield by one of the tight ends. That's an eligible offensive lineman up there. It makes me wonder how much of this we're going to see from Declan Doyle, because Ben Johnson used it a lot in Detroit, and they certainly did last year together in Chicago. So the slot I nature, you've got a tailback and a fullback. Really, he's a tight end, but he's lined up at fullback. 2 receivers to the bottom side, one of which is an actual receiver, and then there's a slot tight end. I call this the second man through or second guy through. One thing to mention about it is because they're in 13 personnel or jumbo 13, the 49ers are matching with their base defensive structure. It means a 4-3 structure. So as a result, this wheel route by the tight end, Colston Loveland is going to get handled by the boundary side inside linebacker. We're talking about right here. I'll rewind this a couple of times, let you guys see it. Where Loveland comes from and who's guarding him is that tight end right here. That concept, that wheel, or out and up, whatever you want to call it, clears out the space down here and allows the tight end who lined up at fullback to access it pretty clearly. Actually, you could almost say this isn't the second guy through, this is the third. Number 1 would be the wide receiver, DJ Moore. Number 2, the tight end, 84. And then the tight end / fullback would be number 3. Yeah, it's a half-field read. Who cares? Like, the discussions about people cutting the field in half and making things easy for the quarterback, that's what play-action boot does. This isn't a boot. It's a straight drop back. Third player through the zone. If it were a zone, third player through the zone, wide open here. I actually think Caleb Williams is possibly a little bit late, getting rid of this football. I feel like he should already be delivering the football now. It's a 7-man protection scheme, 3 routes at the bottom side of our screen into the boundary. Again, a spot where those guys attack a ton. Those guys being, Ben Johnson, Declan Doyle, even Sean Payton. Another variation of the over Yankee concept from under center. This one's 12 personnel. The difference here is that it'll be against man. This is like on the first or the second drive against the Ravens. I think it's a 2nd and 9, but you'll see Caleb Williams can track, obviously, Kyle Hamilton moving across the formation, showing them man. And so he pretty much, I think, knows where he's going to go with the football. But you got corners matched up on the outside. That's Marlon up top against, I think that's Odunze Hamilton on the tight end. And then Starks walk down on the other tight end. So we're showing man. And this is also different. There's no horizontal conflict here. It's just straight drop back. But it's the same concept as I've shown you twice before. Not as the previous play against the 49ers. But there's a lot of details that I think go into the way that Ben Johnson / Declan Doyle get a lot of these things done. Number one, outside release by the corner here, or to outside release here, to force this corner to man turn. Turn to the sideline, open his hips, and make it impossible for him to deal with or have any awareness of that route at all. And what it does is it really just forces, okay, from a mathematical standpoint, the only guy who could handle this or help out at all is that free safety coming down. Some teams do that. The Detroit Lions let their free safeties take over that route completely and quickly, by design or by scheme. In this case, it's easy recognition. I want some of these plays for Lamar Jackson. I want some of these easy access plays where he can get to, his back step, his final step in his drop, have eyes exactly where he wants to throw the football, and then decide, okay, I want to throw it here or there, boom, maybe take off if he wants to. Yes, make the game simpler for him, put less stress on his body. I think Declan Doyle is extremely organized and has built-in ways, pre-snap motion, etc., just like everybody does, to confirm the coverage, which is standard at this point, but also a way to make similar concepts look different so that they're less predictable. One more from Chicago's 2025 season. This one will be out of the gun, and then we'll finish this up with 3 or 4 plays of Lamar, either under center or in the gun. This one against the Packers in the playoffs. It's an 11 personnel group, and it's twin slot. So what I mean by twin slot is the twins are up here, 2 wide receivers, slot tight end, outside receiver who's obviously got a really compressed split. He's above the top of the numbers, and then running back to the side. So I would call this twin slot A because the running back and the tight end are on the same side. Boundary side safety rolls down, and it's a cool play. Makes it look like a sweep to the field. So the running back is going to cross Caleb Williams' face. And again, these routes are not drawn to scale. I only have, so much space to deal with before the route would be off screen for you guys. So hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. The slot wide receiver up top, the yellow route, I think it's Luther Burden. He's going to get over top of the second level of the defense and underneath of or in front of the safety. It really ends up being a cover 3. The tight end stays into block. In addition, there's always layers to the things that Ben Johnson designs, in my opinion. In this case, I think the running back is obviously going out into the flats. You'll see that in a moment. But he's also got the ability to possibly help edge protect against this defensive end. I think it's Lucas Van Ness. Pulling guard gets out in front to help with the tight end. It's a pass pro scheme that the Ravens have used before. The difference for the Ravens is often Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely is going out in a route. So this guard is going all the way around, and then typically you'll have a fullback or a tight end trying to help out as well. They do this in a different way. The tight end deals with the edge defender first, then the guard takes over. That's actually Joe Thuney, the All-Pro, and the tight end would release late. Really nice design, if you ask me. Kind of simple. I like the blocking schemes that are associated or tagged along with these play actions. They're not unique necessarily or that much different from everything across the rest of the NFL. What I will say is you often get this type of dynamic for Caleb Williams, and I just feel like for Lamar Jackson, with his talent level, his ability to put the ball on target, and his mobility and game awareness, if you give him time and space, we're going to average 30 through 32 points a game, somewhere in that range, because he's not had time consistently the last 2 years, particularly 2025. There's been so many times where he had to make too many plays in the span of a 5-snap period. I feel like in 2025, Lamar had to make 3 plays. 2024, he almost had to make 2. I'm kind of generalizing here. Hopefully this, makes sense to you guys. What I would hope that Declan Doyle and Jesse Minter are looking for in 2026 is that over the course of 5 plays, Lamar would make 1.5 to maybe 2, or be asked to do so. Let's do an under center play here that involves Rashad Bateman, who I think many people have referred to as a timing based receiver. This is in the third quarter against the Steelers. I believe we're down 27-16 or maybe 26-16. I think it's obvious Bateman is an asset that's been underutilized at times. In my opinion, the play action gives us a chance to get the ball to him in an organized fashion. So it's a 21 personnel group. Henry is in the game here. It'll be a downhill run look, but it's kind of split zone-ish. Ricard is going to work across the heels of the offensive line, presumably to go help pass pro out to our right side. So really this is like split zone. You got two deep curl concepts by Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. It's not a stretch or an outside zone look, meaning we're not getting that horizontal conflict whereby Henry is going on an outside zone path and Lamar is booting off of it. This is just really straight drop back play action, I should say. You can see Ricard taking over the guy that likely chipped him a little bit longer than the Bears, likely released a little bit quicker than the Bears tight end did in the previous play I showed you. That guy kind of hung on to the defensive end a little longer, but the timing for Lamar is what I think is important. Getting him to be able to play like on time in the progression of the play with a secure pocket. That's important in my opinion, and I think Declan Doyle, Jesse Minter, and those guys have already identified that it's something, we've got to get more of. Some cheap shit here by Patrick Queen and the Steelers as far as the, post-snap, not touching the guy when he's down on the ground, pretty much gave himself up. Same play from the end zone angle. I'm not saying we need to be 70% under center. For me, 58, 42, somewhere in that range, 55, 45, but it could change, each week, 50-50. It could depend on the week. Depend on the opponent, I should say. One of the things that I saw recently Jesse Minter talk about was having to build in defensive calls for if they come out in shotgun or if they come out under center. And that to me relates to different personnel groups, 21, 12, sometimes 11, but we're not under center a whole lot out of 11 personnel. If we're under center with 3 receivers, it's typically going to be 20 personnel. So Ricard and a tailback, and then 3 wide receivers. I'd like to see us force defenses to have to prepare for under center and shotgun play calls on their side every week. In any case, it's a split zone look, like I said. Henry is definitely a threat on all of this. It doesn't pull these guys, dramatically downhill, but they're frozen for a moment. They can't get out in their drop. And it just leaves Lamar a little bit more of a lane to throw to. It just holds them long enough such that they can't get out in their drop sooner and possibly, disrupt the lane or get in the way of where Lamar wants to throw it. I think Lamar's fake's got to be a little bit better there, to be honest with you, but I've always enjoyed seeing him go under center play action, get back here to the top of his drop, get that foot in the ground, and then everything is forward for him. It's decisive, meaning he's no longer operating, okay, I might go here because the pass protection is shitty. I'd like to step up here and throw the football. Everything in these situations is forward, and that's always been important for me to watch him, and hopefully we want to promote that and put him in this situation right here more often in 2026 than we have the last 2 years, because we have the talent to use guys who we want to get the football to. Likely, probably not going to be back. Bateman we have under contract. Mark Andrews we have under contract. We have other receivers, besides Zay Flowers that we'd like to get involved. I think that under center play action is often somewhat predetermined to an extent, but it doesn't mean that it can't be a real deterrent to the defense who's probably in the beginning of the game trying to stop the run and Derrick Henry. I recognize there'll probably be some type of collective or individual groans in looking at this one. This is, of course, the overturned touchdown to Isaiah Likely that really is a fork in the road for this season, as well as the missed field goal on the final snap in the Week 18 loss to the Steelers. So jumbo 23 personnel, Lamar's under center. Try to focus on, if you can, just how we get this done. We're faking power, so the guard is going to pull and lead out to the edge. In addition, Ricard is going to go like he's going to lead block for Derrick Henry. So it's very similar to what I described with the Bears earlier, in that you have a guard pulling, and they had a tight end dealing with the edge defender. Here we've got Ricard first, and then the guard, which in this case is Voorhees. I just love Lamar's steps. Getting to the top of his drop, immediately his eyes are where they need to be, which is first choice. There's only 2 routes here. Kolar working across. We know he doesn't go to it, but I like I'm going to slow-mo this. I like how quickly his eyes go from that read to the next one. Zero indecisiveness, probably because he knows he's got a good pocket to throw from, even though we do have an unblocked, I think, defensive tackle who is charging directly at him. It's a great play. We know how it ends. Whether he caught the ball or not doesn't matter as far as the purpose of this video. What I will say is, if we can operate under center more often and let Lamar use functionally less energy, rely on Henry's gravity some, we can do that, right? It can create those high percentage chances that I kind of just illustrated. I think we could have caused more problems for defenses in 2025 by going under center some. But I recognize there's others who say, Coach, I think we should have been in the shotgun and throwing the ball more. I just don't think the offensive line that we had and that we were choosing to deploy out there would have been able to stand up to that at all. There's a lot to cover with a Declan Doyle offense. We're projecting, right, because Ben Johnson's the guy that called the plays. I think we're going to see these concepts, the ones that I just showed you, either from the Ravens or the Bears. You know, Ledford coming over from the Falcons, Doyle from the Bears. Ledford brought his assistant O-line coach. They were 1 and 2 in outside zone stretch usage, and if you run outside zone or stretch, you have to run the boot off of it. We still have Derrick Henry. Lamar can and will make plays when we need him to. What I want to see is more in the tank for him from a stamina perspective when that time comes. The organizational plan for me going into 2025 was poor and frustrating. Shocking to me still that there's no stories that have come out. No one stood there in a meeting room and said, hey, this isn't good enough along the offensive line. It's a professional level of football. We all assume that their level of understanding is 3 or 4, levels above our own. It wasn't. Those things came back to haunt John Harbaugh and others. We're in a new season. We're approaching a new season from the standpoint of the NFL schedule, but we're in a new season in reality because of a new staff, a new way of doing things, at least to offense. I hope. Well, let me give you some things I think I know. Jesse Minter wants to preserve as much energy, stamina, speed as possible each week for Lamar. He's coached against Lamar. Again, I don't want to expect Lamar to make 3 plays out of 5 snaps on offense, 1 or maybe 2. So all of these situations or all these plays that I've shown where the quarterback fakes it and puts his foot in the ground and delivers the football or boots out to the edge, that's what I'd like to see more of, as opposed to a collapsing pocket. Lamar puts his foot in the ground at the end of his drop, and we should be getting rid of the ball soon, but he doesn't know where the pass rush is. Number one, we may end up throwing on the run. We may end up escaping. There may be 2 oncoming pass rushers that he can't escape. And over the course of a 4-quarter game and a season, instead of him, when the time comes for him to run, instead of him having 92% stamina or 94% health, we're at 78 or 75. Let me give you a concrete example. And this is week 1 against the Bills. Obviously, it's before Lamar got hurt in that game and others. It doesn't mean that we'll never rely on him, his legs, his unique skills, right? But there's a time and a place for it. We have Derrick Henry. Our goal, I hope, is a top 5 offensive line in 2026, such that when we want to, at a time and place of our choosing, we can go to this dual read stuff. It comes pre-installed, right? We're still creating horizontal conflict. We got the jet motion across by Zay Flowers. Some of you guys don't know, but typically people aren't going to give it on that fast or jet motion to the receiver if the running back is on the wrong side. So normally, they're going to have the running back on the same side he's motioning to, so he can get out in front and lead block. Complicating factor here is that the tight end is over there, so it's entirely possible that we would give it. Bills have motioned down or brought down the boundary side safety. We are getting horizontal conflict, right? We are using Lamar's legs here. It's a dual read concept. So they're going to be reading the defensive end up here to the top side. I think it's Bosa, who early in the game, he was running down the line of scrimmage violently. These concepts are pre-installed with Lamar. Declan Doyle, congratulations. You have inherited a guy who has 4 or 5 or 6 different option concepts pre-installed. You do not have to spend a ton of time instructing him on how to do those things. Well, number one, Declan Doyle is not an option guy himself. Lamar can function, succeed in any system. We should be spending more time, in my opinion, from an install standpoint, a design standpoint. We should be spending more time under center, getting Lamar and everyone ready, to be able to contribute in that way. I use this play, but I'm going to refer to, this is in the red zone, right? So we're getting a touchdown from Lamar, great. But I want to refer to a game from Lamar's past, from 2021, that we'll all remember, to relate to how I hope Declan Doyle approaches this. Remember the Thursday night debacle in Miami, 2021, right? Where Brian Flores and his defense brought the stick split zero look like 36 or 37 or 38 times. That was a Thursday night game. The Sunday before that, a 4 o'clock game, mind you, in Baltimore, we defeated the Minnesota Vikings 34-31. Lamar threw the ball 41 times that day. He had 21 carries, and he got sacked 3 times. His usage in that game was unsustainable. His usage for the fact that we had a Thursday night game 4 days later, I actually complained about in my reaction video that night after the win against the Vikings. Lamar had 3 touchdown passes. I think he threw 2 picks. He won us the game. He was Superman. My point is, when he goes down to Miami on that Thursday night, maybe he's able to handle things a little better, escape 1 or 2 situations quicker or more abruptly if he's not so worn down from 4 days earlier. Maybe you don't like the analogy. Maybe you don't like the explanation. I think that Declan Doyle, Jesse Minter are on the same page as far as we want to use Lamar Jackson in a strategic way to throw the football, run occasionally, and then at a time and moment of our choosing, run some option stuff, be in the shotgun, give him the ability to possibly run the football. Think back to some of the things Todd Monken, he himself actually admitted. Some of my route concepts with Lamar Jackson at quarterback are deeper down the field because if they're playing man, we're just running those guys off and Lamar can take off. He's still going to be able to do that at times. I'm just saying we shouldn't be relying on it so much that we wear him down on a Sunday afternoon game in Baltimore with a Thursday night football game 4 days later. Hopefully, that makes sense, that analogy. I probably could have explained it a little bit better. I'm looking forward to seeing this offense be developed. I still have 2 other videos I'd like to do on the Declan Doyle / Ben Johnson offense. If you're not interested, you're probably not listening at this point, but feel free to give me any feedback on this one and the plays that I chose to kind of illustrate my points. And then finally, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at what the Bears did under Declan Doyle / Ben Johnson, and me projecting how it could look with Lamar Jackson under center in 2026, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.